Yeah, we are in the place to be. Yeah.
Yo, what's going on, guys, and welcome to the first ever video on my YouTube channel. If you clicked on this video, you're probably wondering, how do I lose weight? How do I lose maybe 100 pounds, maybe more, maybe less, and keep it off and sustain that? Well, that's the topic I'm going to be covering in this video. So if you clicked on this video, you came to the right place. And today's video is going to be the first of many diet tips that I'm going to be categorizing into a series I'm going to call Day-to-Day Diet Tips, or 3xD.T. And yeah, let's get right into the video. So getting started with the video, I thought I'd give you guys a little bit of background on how I lost 100 pounds and gained a shit ton of muscle, so that you have an idea of where I'm coming from and that you can know that my tips are generally trusted since I did it myself. And just so you guys know, I lost this 100 pounds within a year and a half, which is a really small timeline. You could probably do it quicker, but not that much quicker. For some of you, it might seem like a really long time, but think of how much time it took for you to put that fat on. So getting started with the background, around 2015, mid-2015, I was around, I think, 5'7" and weighed around 225 pounds. So I was obese, and given that I was 13, 14 years old, going to high school, I was made fun of a lot. And when I used to look in the mirror, I never really realized how fat I actually was. I used to always think, no, you're not that fat. Maybe they just think you are because you're slightly more chubby than everyone else. But no, I was obese. Like years would be taken off of my life if I continued down this road. And I realized back then that I wanted to be fit when I grew up, for myself, for my family, and overall for a better future, longer future, healthier future. And I started losing the weight. So when I first started the diet, I gave myself around a 500 to 1,000 calorie deficit daily. The reason it was a range rather than a strict number like 700 calorie deficit or something like that is because it gave me a little playroom to not always have the same meals every day and kind of switch things up a bit, give myself a little wiggle room, to not be too strict. And the way that helps is that if I go over, like, maybe I only have a 500 calorie deficit, which is the lower of my range, and let's say I gave myself a strict thing like a 700 calorie deficit, that would be 200 calories overeaten from the deficit that I wanted. So usually people would quit at that point and start binging for the day, which is not how you sustain a diet. So I did that for around a year and a half. I started around mid 2015 and ended around late 2016, starting at 225 pounds. And ending at 130 pounds, which, as you can see, is a huge difference. So if you look at that over the 78 weeks that it took, that ended up being around a 1.3 pound loss weekly, which ended up being around a deficit of 650 calories daily, which isn't that much, and still yielded very impressive weight loss. And at this point in my life, I looked in the mirror and realized I'm too skinny. I wanted to lose weight, but I wanted to be healthier and fit for my future. So that's when I started going to the gym. And from, I think, mid-2017 to around where I am now is when I gained all my muscle. Now, I'm going to be giving more tips on diet and muscle gain and body recomposition and all that jazz in the future, but for today's video, I'm going to be focusing on weight loss. So as you can see, at this point, it would be pretty safe to assume that I know what I'm talking about when it comes to weight loss, given that my track record is really good. And I also actually personal train a few of my friends, and I've helped them out quite a bit. And after personal training a few of my friends and helping them out, I thought it would be a good idea for me to give my advice and share the science with the rest of you on YouTube, and hopefully get all of you guys to achieve your fitness goals, or at least get nearer to what you think is your ideal body. So getting right into the video, Firstly, and arguably most importantly, you should start with the basics. The first thing you should do when trying to reach a sustainable, long-term, effective diet is to track your calories, at the very least, and if possible, track macronutrients, and if you want to get really detailed, track micronutrients. But that doesn't really matter too much for weight loss. So the main thing would be, yes, track your calories daily and try and achieve a sustainable and effective caloric deficit. However, neither tracking calories nor tracking macronutrients is mandatory to weight loss. It's a great tip that'll help with achieving flexibility, given that you won't have to stick to strict food groups or avoid some of your favorite foods because you may overeat on them. It allows you to track your favorite foods and eat in moderation so that you could still hit your caloric target while enjoying stuff like pizza, ice cream, and other delicious foods. And having flexibility like this generally always equals sustainability, shown time and time again through the scientific literature. So again, tracking your calories allows you the ability to eat whatever you want so long as you're within your caloric targets. And tracking macronutrients could help with stuff like building muscle, achieving more thermogenesis, which will again allow you to be in a higher caloric target while also maintaining a deficit, which again equals flexibility, but we'll get into that later down the video. Tracking macros is also really good for body recomposition and maintaining muscle during a cut phase. Now I'll get more into this in other videos, but tracking protein intake at the very least of the 3 macros is a staple to a successful diet, with tons and tons of scientific literature showing that a high protein diet is always generally a more successful diet, since protein is the most filling macronutrient of the 3. Now, I generally say track macronutrients rather than just track protein because fats can also come into account. Fats help with maintaining proper hormone health during a weight loss phase or even just in general, which is why tracking calories and macronutrients makes number 1 on my list. So for my second tip on how to achieve a successful weight loss diet, I'd like to touch on how important it is to shoot for sustainability and flexibility above all, which I briefly mentioned in my last point. One of the most important tips to a successful diet is to optimize the diet to the best of your ability while also maintaining comfortability. Making a change to something as huge as your diet is best achieved through small steps in the right direction, rather than a huge change out of nowhere, like eliminating food groups and changing your entire diet routine. And when dieting, you must remember that there are no significant shortcuts, without it almost always causing you to binge or rebound, which happens in most cases for crash dieting. And even through regular dieting, the rebound statistics are horrible, and lots of people regain more weight than they originally started the diet on. You don't know how many times people come up to me and say, "Hey Liam, I've been dieting for X amount of time and it doesn't seem to be working. Maybe it's my genetics or some other extraneous factor." But quite frankly, that's just making up excuses. For one example, I'm the king of bad genetics. Both my mother and father didn't do much physical labor their entire life. My father's obese, and my grandparents also didn't do much on my father's side. They were both obese. On my mother's side, my grandparents were a little better, but still not the most athletic, meaning I'm genetically prone to being more obese than athletic, but look at me now. Genetics have a very small determining factor when it comes to weight loss. Muscle gain is another topic, but weight loss, it's definitely not your genetics. So since it's not your genetics, I usually always ask them, what kind of diet have you been doing? Explain your routine to me. And they usually always say, oh, I cut out carbs, I've been doing the keto, or I've been clean eating, only eating non-processed foods. And that's cool and all, and that diet may work for others, but it's not the be-all, end-all diet. Those diets don't provide caloric restrictions, they just provide eliminating food groups, which isn't sustainable. Tell me how long you can go in your life without eating bread, or with only eating chicken breasts and broccoli. Nobody would sustain that type of diet. And those type of diets promote a bad food relationship, which can lead to harmful eating disorders. Which is why I try to make everyone remember when dieting that no food at all, independent of the amount you eat and the frequency you eat it, is harmful to you in any way. This means that yes, you can eat pizza. Yes, you can eat ice cream. Yes, you can eat any junk food you want, so long as it's within moderation. You gotta remember that a calorie is just a calorie when it comes to weight loss. So if you shoot for sustainability through counting calories, then you'll almost always hit your target. However, you gotta remember that eating these types of foods isn't always the most satiating and can often lead to binging. So don't wait to eat all these foods in one day. Try and spread it out throughout your week so that you don't crave them, you don't binge, and you maintain satiation. Don't only eat pizza for an entire day, because you probably won't be that satiated. But it is okay to eat a few slices whenever you're craving it. And missing one day or slightly overeating one day out of your week isn't going to mess up your diet to that great of a degree. You must remember that a craving is a craving. You can't simply ignore it and it'll go away. It will continuously come back and eventually cause you to binge if you're too strict with your diet. However, given this information, you have to understand that there are other foods that are more satiating because they come in higher volumes for less calories, more nutrient dense with macro and micronutrients, and to an extent promote good health, given that they have more micronutrients than a pizza would, like fruits and vegetables. So if you want to have a successful weight loss diet while getting rid of those cravings, enjoying junk foods, and maintaining a almost perfect health, I'd recommend eating more fruits and vegetables rather than eating less of the foods you love. And with that information, when it comes to being more satiated through the rest of your diet, I'd recommend, but not limit you to, eating more nutrient-dense, minimally processed whole foods. And if it's hard for you to get these types of foods in your diet due to financial issues or any other issue, then at least try having one athlete-formulated multivitamin daily. Given that almost all of the population hits almost none of the recommended daily allowance for things like micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, things like that, which can pose a very serious risk for health issues like osteoporosis. Now, for my third tip on a successful weight loss diet, especially for those who are trying to build muscle, maintain muscle, or at the very least maintain satiation throughout the day, I'm going to bring back something that I mentioned earlier, and that is that you should eat a high protein diet. The general recommendation is 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. However, I'd even recommend going past that. One example is that I eat somewhere from 220 to 250 grams of protein a day, weighing at only 200 pounds. Now, the reason I eat this is because I get a lot of cravings. I always crave pizza, I always crave tons of junk foods, and I'm never satiated. I can eat endlessly. So for people who do have appetites like that, who can just eat all day, any food, and never feel satiated, I would recommend that higher protein diet. Getting around 260 grams a day ensures that I will be satiated throughout the entire day and not have to worry about ever binging or anything like that. Also, eating a high protein diet can yield body recomposition for those who are working out while trying to lose weight. High protein diets also promote good health, at the very least maintain muscle mass, and have the highest thermic effect of all macronutrients, meaning that you'll burn more calories eating more protein. So if you're still on the fence of trying to get a higher protein diet or just maintaining your normal diet, one more thing I'd say about a high protein diet is that you achieve all of these health benefits previously mentioned while having no health risks. Eating over 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight a day provides 0 health risks for healthy adults. However, if you are an adult with a pre-existing issue, like a kidney issue, I'd recommend seeing a doctor before increasing the proteins in your diet. And onto my fourth tip for maintaining a sustainable diet. This tip is to experiment with meal timing and seeing if maybe changing the timing of your meals can maintain satiety rather than eating the typical breakfast, lunch, and dinner at strict time. For one example, I started skipping breakfast and adding more meals to the end of my day since I'm usually always hungrier at the end of my day. And that actually helped me maintain satiety, given that in the mornings I'm not that hungry. And I see no real use for eating breakfast. It's not an important meal of the day. No meal is more important or less important than other meals. All meals just provide nutrients for your body. And the only time I'd see breakfast as a good thing is if you're going to do activities early in the morning and you need energy. And if you don't know where to start with experimenting with meal timing, I'd recommend trying intermittent fasting. I tried it and I really liked it. Basically, all you have to do is fast for the entire day and eat within a 4-hour eating window centered around the time that you train, or when you're most active. And intermittent fasting has been shown to have a hunger blunting effect, can improve cardiovascular health, decrease cancer risk, increase lifespan, and has a neuroprotective effect. But even just the hunger blunting effect, I find, is good enough for maintaining a sustainable diet. Now onto my fifth tip, and to what I'd say is one of the most underrated weight loss tips, is to increase your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. What this means is that you increase the calories burned through non-formal activity, like working out and other things like that. This can be as simple as parking 10 minutes away from work and walking. Or rather than taking the elevator, you take the stairs. Maybe if you have a desk job, you can fiddle with your fingers, which I know is tedious, but it does help burn calories, at least to a certain degree. What I like to do is I like to bounce my legs up and down. It helps train my calves, kinda, and increases my thermic effect throughout the day. One of the best ways I found to increase my NEAT is by simply walking more, or increasing my steps. For one example, I try to reach around 12,000 to 15,000 steps daily. And even just a small increase of a few thousand steps daily can increase your caloric expenditure by quite a bit, especially if you do it every single day. The calories start to add up. And that's why I found it to be one of the most underrated tips. Now lastly for this video is tip number 6, which is to reduce or completely eliminate all liquid calories. In my experience, and according to the scientific data, liquid calories is the least satiating way to get calories or nutrients in your diet, sometimes leaving you feeling almost completely empty, regardless of consuming almost an entire meal's worth of calories. My recommendation for someone who consumes a lot of sodas or other liquid calories is to sub those drinks out for the 0-calorie variety, which, contrary to popular belief, is actually good for you and is in no way harmful according to the FDA's recommendations. For one example, my recommended daily intake by the FDA is around 12 liters of diet soda, which is 34 cans when it comes to things like aspartame or other artificial sweeteners. And I can consume that every day for the rest of my life and have no negative health effects. Again, the FDA's recommendations, which, by the way, is a very conservative estimate. Of course, that would be if I had the diet sodas with no caffeine in them. If they have caffeine in them, I'd recommend a top limit of 400 milligrams daily, which, by the way, is still around 11 to 12 cans of diet soda, which nobody is drinking in a day. And if you are, you could just sub to the no caffeine version. And with that, I'm going to end the video here. If you liked the video and made it this far, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit that bell notification to help grow my channel and get this information out there to the general public. Not a lot of people know the scientific data behind fitness, and one of the worst things about the fitness industry is that so many fitness influencers give you false information to try and sell their product. And that's why I think it's crucial to get more channels like mine out there and get the real information out to everyone so that people could actually achieve their fitness goals and not run around in circles all day wondering why they're nowhere closer to their goal. And with that, don't forget to tune in next time.